What's going on, guys? I'm Dan, and this is Sweat Equity. If you have not subscribed already, please take a minute to do that. I really appreciate it. This is just kind of a midweek tractor find. I was just kind of scrolling around on Facebook, and this one popped up. I think originally it was $200, and then it immediately was like a day later, it was marked down to $100. And then a day after that, it was marked down to $50. And there's only like one picture of it, which is pretty much the view you see right now. It was only like 20 minutes away. It was the right price. So basically what we've got here is an MTD garden tractor. It's not as quite as beefy as some of the other ones that I have, but we can do a quick little walk around here. I'm not sure the year yet. The front end looks very similar to I think it's a 93 Craftsman that I have over there. Clearly it's a yard machine, so it's made by MTD. Why is my phone going off? Got a little naughty by nature happening there. Don't know why that happened. I was actually going to try to see, because I knew this guy just wanted to get rid of this thing, because when you mark something down that fast, you kind of just know. But when I got there, I was like, okay, it's got one of these Briggs opposed twin engines, which I have not had yet, so this is something new for me. It's an 18.5 horse. I was like, okay, it's got compression, it turns over, it's got real good compression, and it's got a battery. And he actually said, okay, in the listing it said it may need a starter, and I didn't really know. I was like, it could have a locked up motor, but it has a good battery, which is half of the price I paid for it right there. And I think he's actually right. I think it actually doesn't need a starter. It just spins. He said it was working fine up to that point. Just a couple weeks ago, the starter acted up. I think he said he hit the starter once and he got it to go one time, but then it wouldn't start again after that without hitting it. I think I might be able to get this thing going pretty easily. All the tires have air in them, but yeah, it's an 18.5, 46-inch cut. It is evidently a 14-speed gearbox. It has 7 speeds right here that you select this way, and then you have a high range and a low range right here, which I've never seen before. I don't know if you can see that, but low range, high range, low range. Somehow this is neutral. I guess just in the middle is neutral. High or low is like that, and then reverse like that. It does look like it has some kind of a ground for a reverse lockout. And it looks like it is a manual PTO, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't even move. Oh, you have to. Okay. You have to move it. Oh, this little notch. But I was like, $50. I'm not sure what year this thing is. This is what we got right here. Don't see, just got a model number. I can look at that model number. See what year this thing is. My guess is early 90s, late 80s, something like that. I'm gonna see if I can get this thing going pretty easily here. I have a couple extra starters from some of these blown up motors that I've gotten recently. I'm gonna see if I can. The hood is kind of weird on this. It doesn't do the whole thing. It's got like this little casing down here, so it's a little different. I don't know where my impact gun went, so I'm just gonna have to rough it and use hand tools. But these are probably 3/8. Well, there's a 3/8 there, a Phillips. I wonder if I have, yeah. Pretty sure it's gonna be easier to take that all the way off. Yeah, so the guy actually meet some pretty cool people with doing these things. Some people probably think this guy was a nerd, but he really wasn't. He had 2 like 60s International Harvester tractors like this that he had in his garage. He had like his, I don't know, something orange. I forget what brand it was. Aaron's maybe. That was like the one he uses. And then he had 2 like fully restored vintage International Harvester, I think 1 Cub Cadet. that he was working on. And, you know, he got this for free. Somebody was like, hey, you want a free tractor? Kind of like, you know, kind of like me. It's like, and they know that I'm the guy that might want something like this. And, you know, he took it, and I guess it worked for a little while, and he just didn't feel like putting the effort into seeing what was wrong with this. And I mean, you know, looking at this, you got to take a few things off to get to the starter. And you got to buy a starter. I might be lucky enough to have one that I don't need to do that. And try not to step on your feet there. There's a nut on the back side of this one. I don't know, I kind of find this shit cool. I mean, they're different from what I normally work on. There's no quick disconnect for the headlights, so I gotta just unscrew that and run. You know, remove it. I gotta remember where these things go. Oh, I'm recording, aren't I? So, worst case scenario, I can look back at the video. Definitely got some oil leaking around it, but not terribly bad. And there was actually another one of these, another engine like this listed, like the same town that I live in, for like 25 bucks. I didn't actually know this had that on there, but if this engine was junk, I'd be able to get another one pretty easily. Not really sure why they did the opposed twin, if this is like pre-V-twins, or if they made them at the same time as the V-twins. Like, I mean, it's got a low horsepower for a V-twin, or a twin. I mean, 18, you know, they had single cylinders with 21. I have one over, well, I have a blown up one over there. But, you know, I figured it's something different. See what this thing's all about. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's mostly just leaking from like the dipstick tube, O-ring. So dipstick tube, you can use an 8mm on them. Does it have oil in the thing? I mean, seems, yeah. It's at the low line, so that's honest. Well, all I need to do is lift this up some. Some more on the front. Oh yeah, there's one right here. One on that side's missing. He said the transmission hauled ass when it was running. So we'll see. Just move it up a little bit. Flywheel seems to look fine. Oh yeah, the teeth are just shredded off of the starter. There's just no teeth. Like, there's teeth on the bottom, but they're all stripped off because this just looks like it's plastic. Grab one of the starters that I have. So I have a couple of these. It might actually be the same or similar. This piece needs to go away. Can I use an 8 over here again? Yeah. I was kind of thinking that it was silly to not just replace a starter on the thing. That's all it was, but it is more work on this particular tractor with this particular engine than it probably would normally be. Everything intertwines and overlaps. Like this little tab. There we go. Well, the starter definitely mounts differently, but I wonder, I think the motor is the same. Well, that doesn't want to turn without some extra persuasion. There's a Phillips in the top there. Ugh. Wow. You really want to be super annoying, don't you? Okay. So that doesn't want to cooperate. But it's okay, it doesn't really have to come off. I just was trying to make it slightly less in the way. Wow, that's really dumb. So there's a bolt there. There's a bolt right up under the flywheel, which I don't know if that's going to be able to come off without taking the flywheel off. So then the question is, can I just transfer this part over? Because looking at it now, I think it is this part is all the same. It's just the mounting that's different. Okay, so there's a clip right on top of here that I could probably get off and just swap over. Because the starter motor turns, so all we really need is the gear. So this is more involved than I was expecting for right now. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I can, well, you know, I can get, yeah, I'm not even sure if I can actually, this will clear it. But yeah, it's a plastic gear, where, I'm not sure if this is plastic or not. It looks metal. So maybe that was something they did at one point. Just put plastic ones on. Because the thing turns fine, you know? Alright, so I think we're gonna, now I see what I have to do. Probably, I think the starter only has the 2 bolts. But I would like it to, if I could even just swing it out a little bit, like loosen the bolts and swing it out. So that's what I got to work on now. But I think I'm going to stop because my dinner's ready, or almost ready. And it requires a little bit more than I feel like doing right at this moment. So we're going to come back. For you guys, it'll be in like 2 seconds. But for me, it's going to be another day. All right, guys. So it's 2 days later. I'm off today. It's actually the start of my 3-day weekend. So what do? I come out and screw with a $50 tractor. Where I noticed that the gear is completely stripped. It's just a plastic gear. But it seems like I can at least swap over the gear from another starter, so I can use one of some parts off of something I already have rather than have to buy a starter. Starters are, I think I saw them for about 35 bucks for, you know, the cheapest one that you can find on Amazon. So not terrible, but you know, free is better than, you know, especially when you're working with something that has very low margins as it is. I was gonna see, there's a clip, like a C-clip, that's holding this together. So I kind of want to see if I can get that off. I'm not sure if I can get these vice grips opened up wide enough to hold the top of that. Yeah, maybe a little tighter. And this is probably going to want to go flying, but at least I'll have extras if it does. I guess this needs to rotate, actually. Not really. And I guess this rotates up, but that doesn't rotate down. Where's my flat blade screwdriver? This is the story of my life. I don't even know where I got this flat blade from. It's definitely an antique. A wood handle. I don't know if there's any way of getting this off without going flying, because it's not something I can just get like the edge of it in and slide over. Wow. This may not be worth saving 35 bucks. If this could stay down, it would make it easier. But this just wants to come up. There's no real good way of holding that down. And taking it out and putting it in a vise, I don't really think it's going to help me that much. All right, let me put this on top of that lip so at least it has a hard surface to push against. I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't, they could just put an E-clip so you'd have something to get the screwdriver in. But it just has a C-clip, so there's nothing to like dig into. And then you push it and it just spins. I don't really think snap ring pliers would be of any good because there's no place to get them into. It's like the best way to do it is to take two flat blades and push on either side, but then you also have to have this going down. So how are you going to do that? And I only have one flat blade right here. I don't know where my other one is, or other ones. I guess there might be one in the toolkit on the BMW, right? Oh man. There's like no place to rest this, to hold it down. Not really. Maybe, then I can't get in there. Yeah, this is just probably not worth the effort of what a starter costs. I guess I'll try to take the starter off because that seems like the logical next step. That has, well, more or less it's going to have to happen either way. Half, I think. Yeah, that one's going to be easy. But we'll just start with the easy one. Guess I should take the cable off. And that is not half, of course. All right, one thing at a time. Then I need a 1/2-inch wrench, which I actually have here. And hope that, I have a feeling I'm gonna have to take the flywheel off to get this out. Unless it's a really short bolt. So I already don't like these opposed twin engines just for this purpose right here. At least I can turn it with my fingers, but not that easily. But then it's like, how the hell are you gonna go back in, you know? It's like the flywheel kind of has to come off. But I guess we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Don't think there's any way that's gonna happen. So, this screw the other day was putting up a pretty good fight. Yeah, it does not. Oh, there it goes. I think I was actually coming at it slightly crooked. Thank you. Wow. Well, that just went flying. It's probably too, well, I can't even say it's too early for me to be working because normally I'd be working much earlier than this if I'm at my actual work. Well, that one I couldn't get the other day. This one, I guess I actually don't have to take it off because there's connectors here. That don't make it through the damn thing. So what's the point? Head to get onto it, but maybe we can just do that now. Actually, that works just fine. That is a T20. Alrighty then. And that is a huge socket right there. I don't know if I have that size. Okay, not as big as I thought. That's 1.5 inches. Yep, but it's bigger than the next biggest thing I have, which is 1 1/16 inches. I am probably screwed at taking that off right now. That is a big flywheel though, compared to the single cylinder ones. even if I could get the clip off, I don't think I'm going to be able to get the new one to go down around that, and I don't think I can get the bolt out. There's no way I can get the bolt out from right there because it's probably going to be the same length as this, which there's no way I could clear that. So this has to come off. Let me see. Okay, I can take this off. I think that's these two bolts. The actual blower part of it. Give them a lot of torque if you're doing it by hand. That way it doesn't just spin the whole thing. So instead of just turning it like that and you just turn the whole thing, just give it a whack. Break it loose. It's kind of what an impact gun does in a way. Somebody's up there doing some flight training. They just started the engine midair. A little Cessna looking thing. I wonder if that's the same size as a hitch bar. Nope. So it is something between 1.1 inches and 1.5 inches. So unfortunately, I'm stuck. All right, so when I go to Lowe's or Home Depot today, I need to figure out what size that is. Where's my big adjustable wrench that I have? So this does fit on it. And this actually has like graduations on it. So this is showing that this is like a 32. I don't think I have a 32 socket, do I? I mean, I'm sure I do at work, but so either I'll have to pick up a 32 socket or I'll get really lucky and this thing isn't that tight. I can whack it loose, literally. Try to get that as tight as possible. Because the thing's just going to turn, so I could try to hold it still as well, but if I can shock it, yes, I guess I should unplug the spark plugs just in case while I'm doing this. Yeah, I don't, unless I can hold it still, which I don't know that I see a real good way of doing that, other than jamming something in the teeth on the flywheel, but then I just feel like you just really can risk breaking one of those teeth off. So the best thing is going to be what looks like a 32 millimeter or whatever that equates to in standard. Probably 1 1/8 or 1.25 is my guess. And just zip that off, and then we got to worry about actually prying it up off of there, which I don't always have the best luck with. So, all right, I guess that's where we're at for right now. All right, so immediately after I like give up for the time being and just decide to take my microphone off, put the cameras away, start charging the GoPro, I walk up to my shed to possibly, I don't know, get into something else, and I see that box laying up on the counter in there, and guess what we have in here? So I'm just using my cell phone right now. Perfect fit. We're gonna see how hard it is to get this off of here. If I can get it off and I can get the flywheel off, depending on how easy this is to get off, and that is, well, the whole thing, the flywheel as well as the nut. I'm going to take the coil off because that will probably get hit a little bit. I think I can use an 8 millimeter for that. I guess I need to have like a tool cart to use it at home. I really need like a dedicated garage space that I can work on, but I tend to like to keep at least one of my cars in the garage, if nothing else, just to make it seem like there's not as much going on here. It does only have one coil for both spark plugs. That's interesting. I don't think that's how the V-twins are. They usually have 2 separate coils, one for each side. No problem. No problem getting that off. So now we got to see how difficult that's going to be to get off. Now the trick that I've seen guys like Musty One do is try to get under it with a pry bar. Try to lift up on the flywheel and then take like a sledge and hit down. I want to try to do this to where it's not going to booger anything up, but still have enough threads that it bites into it. So that's a little bit lower than the nut right now. And again, you know, if I destroy it, it's no big deal. There's another one of these engines locally for 25 bucks, so. I may have gotten it. I think that may have gotten it. Maybe not. Whole thing's moving up and down. Maybe that's what I guess I need to get at the top of that stroke. So the flywheel's up, but then the crank has a little bit of a weight, you know, there's a little bit of play in the crank itself. So we're going to try to hit it to where it pushes that part down. And damn it. I may have just messed up those threads. Yeah, that may not have been a good idea. Well. Well, you can still turn on that way. I guess it doesn't really hurt anything to hit it right there because there's no threads there. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really like the other way, so I need a better place to wedge it on top of that bolt that I'm taking out. And that gives me a good upward pull on it. There she goes. Got the washer. There is the key. It is still in there, but that will come out easily. I'm going to just leave it in there for right now. These are all the magnets, positive, negative, or south and pole, I guess. Yeah, north and south pole, and they spin around the stator right here, and that's your charging system. That's the alternator, basically. So now we have easy access. Alright, so we've got one starter free. So I can definitely see why someone would not feel like doing that, because there was a lot to get to that step. Like, I would definitely at least want like 2 hours labor if I was doing this at my shop. So you have to go through that many steps. If you know what you're doing, of course, and you do this all the time, you could plow right through that in like 15 minutes, I'm sure. But a little bit better view of our stripped out starter gear. The gears are only left at the very bottom. So I'm going to see, now that I have it off, if this can just come apart and I can put this adapter, like this bracket, onto the other starter. I'm pretty sure these things are the same. Otherwise, it's just the mounting bracket that's different. But, you know, you could probably just take these two through bolts out and swap the bracket over, is my guess. Yeah, because they're covered up, so they screw into these. But you still have to take all this stuff off in order to do that. So I got to take these top things off either way. Alright, so I got this thing mounted up in the vise. Originally I was kind of squeezing here very gently, but I was like, no, you don't really want to, you know, squeeze this down because you might cause some binding or something. So I have it sitting on the bench and wedged in on the brackets. The only thing I can think of as a way to try to keep this from going flying is to, I thought about just like putting masking tape over it, but then I can't really see anything. So I don't really know if this little groove right here is supposed to do anything. Maybe I'm supposed to be able to, maybe that's it. You walk it around from there. I bet that's the idea. We get one side. I'm going to try to get the other side, maybe. Try to keep my finger over it, so. Wow. Could be easier than this, you know? You could use a different style of a clip. I'm trying not to do that anymore. This is just ridiculous. Sorry about that, but I think I'm on a roll here. Can't see anymore, can you? Oh, so close. Oh, come on. Now this one's going to go flying because I'm like, oh, it's already off. Needle nose might be a help right now. There we go. Okay. That's the little devil right there. Like, why couldn't they just make it like an E-clip or have some way of getting a pick or a screwdriver in it? But they didn't want to do that. So, pull that little piece off. Seems to be one piece. I'm going to just flip them over. Well, that probably can go either way. The spring. There's this little spring, which and then this, which is the part that's actually bad. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the rest of this. Yeah, so at this point I could swap the bracket over, but then I have to take this apart. And if I don't have to do that, if I can just leave as much of this here as possible and then just get that gear off of that one, which I do think is the same like gearing, like they look to be the same. I do think this one is metal though. So I basically just have to, I'm going to say rinse and repeat, but I hate that expression, so I'm not really saying it. But that is kind of what we're doing. going to set that one off to the side. I'm going to say the second time you do something, it goes like 10 times faster. It's a balancing act of trying to get it off without jabbing your finger. Watch it go flying off right now. Wear safety glasses doing something like this, because this, you never know when something could just fly off and hit you. There we go. I might just leave the vice grips on that. That's definitely metal, so I think that was the issue, just a cheaper starter. Everything else looks the same. I don't think there's anything other than that that looks to be of inferior quality on the original starter. So we robbed the parts off of that. That was a free starter off of a junk motor. Pretty sure I took it off that way, but I don't think it matters. Oh yeah, it does. There's a ridge on that side. Let's just thread that on there, and I'm going to put some grease on it too. Just to make sure that thing, because this needs to move up and down easily. Work it a few times. Okay, and then this went on there. The spring. And I guess we're going to use this one because this looks a lot nicer. The spring's the same? Yeah. That one's nasty on the top. This one looks a lot better. I think it'll do the same thing. It just basically holds it all in place. Is really all it does. So putting it back on the clip shouldn't be too bad. Famous last words, of course. Yeah. All right. That's it. That moves nice and freely. There's a nice metal gear that'll probably never break. It's comforting to see something like that. Like, this is clearly a plastic gear. I'm sure there was a year or two that Briggs & Stratton decided to go cheap and save 3 cents per tractor. I mean, maybe 10. I mean, I don't know. And this kind of stuff happens for no damn reason, you know? So that means there's nothing wrong with the engine, I'm going to assume. It just is that this probably just wore down ever so slightly, and then it finally got to the point where it was so just enough that the torque of the starter just, you know, it just made this melt pretty much. You know, it probably had some teeth on there, and then they got smaller and smaller and smaller, and finally hit it, and it just went zzz, and just scraped everything just clean, is what I'm guessing. Both the same size bolts. I'm going to assume that this charging system is working, just because generally when you find the reason why something will stop being used, chances are, you know, especially because it was relatively recent, chances are that was the reason and everything else was functional. I mean, you know, there's always going to be some things that could work better, you know, things like the mower deck height, blades needing to be sharpened, and maybe a spindle's going out or something. But this more than likely was the main thing. Did not drop the key. So that's the key right there. I'm trying to get that to go down flat. More like that. I'm going to take our washer, and it's kind of got a tapered shape to it, like it's kind of cupped like that. The way it looks to me is the cup would face down like it's going to hold water, and that would make sense. Alright, so I kind of boogered this thing up a little bit before, so I'm going to put it on upside down from how it was so that I can try to get some good threads caught there, and then we'll just run it home and hope that it never has to come back off. You know, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Nope. I think that should be good. And kind of push the washer down flat. Alright, so great. Star's in, flywheel's back on. Now we got to put the coil on, and we need to set the air gap with. Alright, so I couldn't find it, so I just took a belt jacket and line it up. I think this will be good enough for what we need. So this just sets the amount of space between the two magnets. The coil magnets will otherwise just be rubbing against the flywheel when it goes by. So you just want to have, you know, a slight air gap. I forgot the exact measurement, but this is what I've always done. Again, I'm not a professional at this. I just have learned everything that I know pretty much from doing it and just from watching YouTubers. Lately it's, well, for years I watched Musty One. Sometimes I'll watch Terrell. I've watched Donnie Boy 73, I think it is, a little bit, but not very much. And been watching Mowers and Blowers lately. The guy Henry, he's just kind of a this is how I am kind of guy. It's like take me or leave me, you know. And I like that about him. He just kind of shows all his mistakes. He doesn't claim to know any more than he actually knows. And I've picked up a few things from him actually. So. Oh yeah, so I looked this tractor up on, I think I just Googled the number that I had earlier in the video, and it came up on, I think it was Parts Tree as a 97 model. It only had the one option for that model number, and it did say it was a MTD garden tractor, and in quotation marks it said Heckingers, or Heckinger. Now, I live in Maryland, and I grew up in Baltimore County, and in the early, I'd say up through the early 90s, Heckingers was our Home Depot and Lowe's. We had one at the Reisterstown Road Plaza, which is the closest one to me, and there was one in Security Square. That was a little nicer. It was a little bigger store, and that was where we went. I mean, we got anything that we needed. You know, I think Home Depot opened in the early 90s in like Catonsville, and then we started going there a little bit more. Lowe's didn't come to we had them out here in Westminster, but we didn't have them in Baltimore County until, I don't know, early 2000s, I think. Maybe late 90s, but I'm pretty sure it was a little bit later. So I kind of saw that and it was like a little bit of a blast from the past, because I remember many times on the weekend going to the Heckingers with my parents to get whatever crap they needed for the house. But they pretty much went out of business around the turn of the new millennium. I'm not even sure if they made it into the new millennium at all. And I have actually seen tractors on Marketplace that are, like, they say Heckingers on the side, so I guess towards the end they just got maybe a specific yard man that they could sell there exclusively, you know, to their specifications or something. I don't know. I could leave this off, but I'm pretty confident it's going to work. The main thing I have to hook up right now is the ground wire, which does go like through the engine housing. Alrighty, let me put one more screw on the other side just to try to hold this thing relatively level. Just keep it from like rubbing anywhere mostly. There we go. Alright, I just want to see if this thing spins. Let's see if it does that. Brake is still on. Ooh. Well, that just bound right to French up. That's annoying. Maybe that gear isn't something I can use. That just locked the starter, the gear, like it just went right up and stuck in there. There's even like a little piece of metal that kind of came off of the, I don't know if that's the tooth or what, but like the spread of those teeth does look a little too wide. Damn. Alright, so now it's down. The bevel seems to be in the right place. Sure, I mean, it sure does look like, I thought I put the teeth together on the other one and it seemed like they were like exactly the same. Maybe I just got lucky and that's just the way it did it that time. Yeah, did it again. And I don't think that's a matter of just greasing it. I think that the spacing is actually wrong. Alright. Well, that's all I can do right now, I guess. I'm pretty sure the other starter I had was the exact same teeth. So I guess I gotta see if I can just buy that gear for this particular flywheel. I guess I could count the teeth too. I don't know. So 16 on the original one. 14, yeah. There's one more tooth on this one than there is on that one, and that one tooth makes a difference as far as fitting into those splines. So other than counting the other starters that I have to see if any of them work, probably gonna have to either buy a new starter or try to get another one of these plastic gears. Alright guys, it's 2 days after the last clip, and thanks to Amazon, I was able to get not one but 5 of these plastic gears for like $10 shipped. They are 16 teeth where the metal one is 15. I did already kind of test fit it in the teeth of the flywheel, and it seems to mesh perfectly. I have not tried to turn it yet. I figured you've already seen me do the other part, swapping it over, so I just did that off camera. Definitely was a lot easier the third time. I mean, second time taking the flywheel off. So all I want to do here, got the battery hooked back up. I just want to see if it actually cranks. Really? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Okay, it works. The battery might be a little bit weak. I put, there's some grease on that, so hopefully it'll work itself in and move up and down a little easier. I can maybe soak with a little bit penetrating oil or something like that. But it works. So I'm going to go ahead and put everything else back together, the tins, this tin here, and we're going to see if it actually wants to run. Did blow out all through all the fins and everything. There's a lot of dirt, like up on the flywheel and down all the fins, and like this, all this stuff here is the cooling system. You know, if you didn't put this back, then the air is forced to go back down over this side head. So it is important to have all this stuff on there if you're going to run it, like for real. Water sitting on top of this. It's probably partially my fault, but I just let it sit out here in the rain. Make a direct shot in there. I guess it tries to keep water out of it. Yeah, that's gonna happen. How bad is the air filter? It's not up there. Still got a pre-filter on it. I was thinking these horizontally opposed twins, they must fire at the same time because they only have one coil to fire both spark plugs at the same time. And it only hits it, there's only one magnet on the flywheel. If it had it on the opposite side, then it could be what we call like a waste spark system, where it's firing double what it needs to. But it doesn't have that, so they must fire at the same time. It's like two single-cylinder engines working right together in one block. Pretty sure I checked that we at least have something in here. Yeah, it's at the low. It's at the low line. Gas smells fine. Alright, so brake is on. It's like a plastic cable. Like right here is all plastic. Well, let's see, at least it works. Let's just see if it wants to start. Brake is on, it's in neutral. definitely has a different sound to it. The blade doesn't fully disengage. Do a like a balance test by unplugging the spark plug, but I kind of want to make sure that choke, because it's still smoking, so I feel like the choke is not fully off yet. Probably should have left the roof off. And that moves perfectly fine, so all the binding is in this. A little bit better. Down here are moving fine. It's basically just the cables that are just kind of garbage. It definitely doesn't run good. this one just to only need the starter gear, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to be the case. I'm going to see if I can figure out these two cables. That's the kind of thing, like those two cables, if I went to buy those, they're probably going to be more than I paid for the tractor. I usually always having to put about $100 into each one of these things whenever I get it, give or take. It might be, you know, it's all different stuff that they need. Pull the throttle cable out of the hole in the dash. It just was kind of had this, like, you know, it's like a handle or lever between two pieces of plastic, and the cable came into that. So I'm not sure if there's something broken there or not, but at first I was trying to work this. This is a lot better. Just kind of hold it up. Just try to get a little bit of juice down in there. You can do it from both ends. Just work it. So that's probably good enough. Probably wouldn't hurt to put a little bit on the pivoting areas in here. Yeah, so I mean that's the lever. It just had two halves held together by screws. Of course, now I can't get it back apart. And it's got like teeth that I would think would, well, I'm sure they go this way. So it has like a way of kind of holding it in position. Yeah, and that would go back like that, and you run the cable through there. Looks like it's been messed with before. A little bit of MacGyvering that was happening in there. Like something happened to the cable on point. There's like a piece of like copper wire wrapped around it. I think it's supposed to hold it in place. And it might work when the cable's moving easily, but when it starts getting bound up like it was. Alright, that's moving nice and freely now. Oh yeah, it's like butter, man. Sure. Not that impressed with the build quality of this thing so far. More so the MTD part, not the engine. Well, it certainly didn't care anything about you changing the oil in it. Because they put just a regular old, you know, drain plug. You know, the nicer tractors, or pretty much every other one I've ever seen, will put a little thing that brings it all the way out to here, so you can drain it without making a mess. This is literally just going to spill right off of the frame down here. There's no way of just getting through that. So you have to put like a piece of something under there if you wanted to try to not make a mess. So because of that, I'm probably not going to change the oil. It doesn't look that bad. I'm going to just add something to it. I mean, it's not new, but you can see it just needs a little bit. That's to me, that's the tractor. That's MTD. That's not Briggs & Stratton, because this is how I think all the Briggs & Stratton engines come. And then the tractor brands will specify which type of a drain plug that their application needs, if it needs the long tube that comes out or whatever they do. But I've never seen that. They literally didn't give a shit about you trying to change your oil in this thing. Alright, so I got it back together. Just was cutting with it a little bit. It actually is running pretty good. It works well. The transmission, you know, it's not hydro. You kind of just use the left pedal, like the brake clutch pedal, as your hydro pedal, if you will, because like you can just press it in. Because I noticed that like if the brake isn't on, this is just kind of like it moves with that. It's hard to describe. When you're on it, you can feel it more. It seems like having it in high range and like kind of around 4 is good for mowing. The low range is really slow. So this is like normal mowing, I would think. I had to bring the deck up about an inch on the left side. This is the adjustment right here. I just kind of took off the pin and just spun it in a little bit, so it brought it up a little bit. The anti-scout wheels should probably go down a little bit, but for right now it's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and put some, fill it up with gas, and I'm probably just going to cut my whole lawn with it, and I'll record as much of it as I can before the battery dies. it runs really good. Once it got going, blew out some cobwebs, I guess, but it actually did pretty good. I actually forgot to mention, of course, now it's all dusty from cutting the grass, but I wiped the whole thing down and touched up some black paint on the deck, stuff like that. I actually wiped it down with transmission fluid, which really does do a pretty good job of cleaning up. But then, you know, I guess the dust, not really, the dust is actually just wiping right off of it. So still needs a choke cable. I think other than that, it is pretty much good to go. I'll see if I can get a choke cable for it, and I'll probably list it for $500, I think. And I'm probably not going to sell it this year, but you never know. I might get lucky and get rid of it before this year is over, because it is pretty much fully functional the way it is. Just with that choke cable, it'll be pretty much 100%. The thing actually has like brand new blades on it too. That was another thing that I have never seen before. I mean, look at that. They're like brand new. So someone definitely took care of this thing. Not sure why the person originally got rid of it. Maybe he was having some trouble with the starter and it just wasn't, you know, starting every time or something like that. It does have this little label right here, C&P, small engine repair. So had it in the shop at least once in its life. So alright guys, with that I'm going to sign off, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.